What's up, YouTube? MCool40 here. We are going to be talking about the new Genesis format. I guess I keep getting asked on stream here to give my thoughts on this and so forth. So make sure you guys smash the like and crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more Oz content. So this guy right here has become what we're going to call the meme of the format, because there are no point allocations to this thing. There is no downside to this. We can just tribute summon this card and basically attack your opponent's life points and reduce them to 0. And you get to win the match. Clap for it, everybody. That's great. That's cool. That's exciting. The minute I see this thing touch down, I'm conceding the match. Oops, sorry. Hey, nice victory, Dragon. Game 2, everybody. Unfortunately, the way that the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game exists within the rules is you can concede at any time. It is very shallow, very, very, very unsportsmanlike at the end, that if your life point's going to get reduced by Victory Dragon, there's just that. But you're scratching the surface on the beginning here, and this is one of the first things that you initially think of in this format is, oh my gosh, Victory Dragon's here. They're going to update this format monthly. All right. If you truly think that Victory Dragon is going to be a problem, I don't think that you've had enough time to truly explore this format. This is just kind of going to be the what we're going to call the bait. They're going to try to get you into this format because you're going to see something like Victory Dragon, and you're going to try to innovate and break this card. That's the allure of it. You're like, oh my god. We've always had this idea out here, and if you see a broken card like this, you'd be like, oh, I want to break this. Reality of the situation is it's not going to be, super good. Now, I do want to, got a couple of lists I'm going to bring up here in the background. So one of the things is, well, Robbie, why do I want to play Genesis format when it just takes all of the problems that modern era Yu-Gi-Oh! Has and brings them into the format? Well, first of all, no pendulums, no links. They don't exist. Fundamentally, Konami can actually use the future sets to market into this. Artmage and Doomsy. I do remember talking to somebody that played the Artmage deck from Rivalry. They had the chance to actually play it, and I only got very positive reviews about Artmage in Rivalry. Keep in mind, this format is just Rivalry of the Warlords extended out. They took the format, they chose to make it bigger, and that's fine. That leaves you the chance to kind of explore. Now, once again, but Robbie, there's canine monsters in here, shifters of 5-pointer, like these cards are gonna ruin the form. Well, first of all, you only have in tournament play 100 points, and if you are dedicating 15 of those to shifter, you best hope that whatever you are choosing to play is going to actually work. And this is another thing here. Same thing when you're looking at something like Izuna. If you're spending 60 points for a retroactive card or a reactive card to hand traps, what if your opponent's not playing hand traps? Then Izuna is just a pile of dog shit. This card literally will do anything. Now, you've also got to remember, if they're making changes to this list monthly, there's nothing stopping them from in a month, suddenly Joel Cool is now a 5-pointer. Now that will change things, because now, you're spending 60, 65. Now you're spending 80 points here to access this package, and then you might be, seeing Ripper going to 100 points, and that means you lose shifters out of the deck. Fundamentally, this will be changing constantly. Your deck will not be a safe haven for these changes. And I do want to keep bringing that up to you here, is we're still in the early phases of this. There will be changes. There will be cards like Joe Cool that I cannot imagine that they're not going to slap point restrictions on. They might even do point reductions at a later date here. somebody on YouTube just brought up the fact that, this is going to be a best of 3 format. So you've also going to have to factor in for your side deck. So it's going to be, you've got a lot to think of, because this also has to bridge through, the fundamentals of that concept. And that's a pretty big one. We've also got Exo Sister. This is another infamous deck here. Look at this. Once again, you have another deck here that's, playing shifters and things like that. But if you're truly looking at options in this format, I mean, look, you're choosing to play hand traps as your points, and then Zeus is going to be your other, big eater of things. And I think that's actually kind of interesting. One interesting thing about this here. So when you go to Genesis decks here in general, look at the cost of some of these decks. $35.42, $43.95, $50, $260 for a Dragon Archfiend Genesis. But I mean, it's even making this deck so expensive. Wait, what? Why is it's got to be the Mulch Armies. It has to be the side deck. It's making that way more expensive. $70, $55.50 to build branded Dark Lord here. But the point is, looking at, $37.91, $40.20, $145 for Genesis, Crystra, and Canine. You know what's most expensive in here? Boom. It's these little pieces right here and so forth. It's a cheap format, people. Especially on like the more casual side of things. Then, I mean, yeah, you're going to end up taking modern era pieces, and you're going to have to, plug them in here. Look at Black Goat Laughs. But Black Goat Laughs gets the reprint here in the Albaz deck in a month, if that. So I don't see the problem with this either. And now this also, begs the question of, now you're wondering why things like, Chaos Ruler, Pot of Greed, all of these cards got reprinted in this year's tins, because, I've already read reports from people that, they're like, oh my gosh, why did these take up slots? Well, it's because, you have things like this to actually help you out. The first 6 months of this format will be the Wild West. So many things will slip through the cracks. If they support it for a year plus and it starts to make it should be fun. That is true. That's actually a very good point. There will be a lot of exploration is going to happen with this. I think that's the thing that the crazy thing about this format to me is I just watched APS's video talking about Modern Era Yu-Gi-Oh! Classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Literally last night. And that's why I was like, I hope APS likes this format, because he was talking about like exploration in the formats and, exploring things. Look at this list, for example, here on the screen. You're at a format place here where, you're going to have people testing out things because, they believe that these are good. You're going to have people tossing around things like ice barriers into this format because they're going to be good. You're going to have tech choices like things like Question here that are going to be very, very, very important. And you're also going to have people going even further out here. They're going to bring something like Purely to the table because they're going to see, oh, Nor is a boss monster that is a problem card. This card will ruin people's days. Nobody's going to question that. The whole point of this format, though, is it's a once a month change. They can update it very quickly. You can play ban cards. There's going to be a lot of exploration. It's a new frontier of deck building. It's a very supported format, which means prize cards are going to be on the line. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for, people to do very well in this. And if you do, get the chance to, do very, very, very well in this, I mean, you just get rewarded for it constantly. And I don't know how I feel about an entire dedicated YCS to this. If it was like, we're going to do a main event for this and a regular YCS main event at the same time and run 2 events, I'd be a little bit more up for that. But overall, I like this format on paper. I think it's going to be very fun, very explored from a lot of people. I think you're going to see a new wave of Yu-Gi tubers come up to want to talk about this format. I think you're going to see other Yu-Gi tubers like Farfa, DZ, if we're going to make this probably something of a career to explore on the casual side of things. Am I going to talk about this a lot? Probably not as much. I barely touch on Edison as it is on this channel. I do think, we'll talk about things that splash up in the market, but in terms of me playing this, exploring it, I think it's just going to be a more casual thing for me. Just going to stick to modern. I guess the last question is will you see me trying out gadgets in this format? RIP to Platinum Gadget, probably be one of the better extenders that we've got. But, we will have to wait and see where this takes us. Seems good, though. So, what do you guys think? Please, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. And I will see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace.